welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, so I thought I'd come back with a Q&A, and also while I was doing that I thought I would do some embroidery. So that is what we'll be doing today. I've got some questions that I asked on Instagram, so let's just jump right in. I'm just going to continue with some gold work that I've got going on the right hand side of the gauntlets. But I'm not going to talk too much about what I'm doing today because I do have another video coming out on the mittens soon, so do look out for those if you're interested. Hoping to just have one more video about embroidery, about the mittens, and then we'll be going on to a bit of the construction, so that's very exciting. I hope that goes to plan because I've just promised it now, so so yeah, here we go. I'm just going to get set up sewing for now, just to get into a rhythm before I actually start chattering. So I'm just couching at the minute, that's all I'm doing, just my heavy metals thread, just to match the other side. So the first question is, how do I start learning bobbin lace on my own? You tried some time ago. Can you recommend some books, resource tips for beginners? Yes, so as you can probably tell already, I give up on things really easily if I'm not good at it straight away. I've done about, I'd say, half a metre worth of lace making, and I actually started it last year, and through time, changing jobs, lifestyle changes, things like that, I ended up forgetting about it, and I'd lost motivation with it because obviously, you know, it wasn't good instantly. But one of the best things I can recommend is to chat to people online. So there are some fabulous people who offer courses, and there's some great YouTube videos and books. I actually was using, I don't know which camera to show it on, I was actually using the Introducing Bone Lace, a beginner's guide to working early bobbin lace by Gillian Dye. That's what I was following while, you know, learning, because she does a really great starting method, you know, and as it says, it's for beginners. So, you know, and I'd sort of made a rod for my own back to start with because I was using linen. Is thread or fibre or yarn the right word? I was using linen anyway, and apparently linen and obviously metallic threads are the harder ones to use. And so for beginners, if you're trying to be good straight away, that's not always the case if you're going to set yourself up to fail straight away. So we'll see. I'll pick it up again at some point, probably when I've not got any mittens to make. So next question, can we have more photos of your bear? I mean dog. Yes, of course. There are loads and loads and loads of pictures of my dog. His name is Alan. He's an American Akita. He's a long-coated one. He was the only one in his litter. I could talk about him all day long. He's my best friend and my saviour during lockdown. If I didn't have him, I don't know what I would do. He's very beautiful. We get stopped everywhere we go with him because he's so gorgeous and obviously looks like a bear. And then he has his own Instagram actually, Alan the Akita. So if you're interested in more Alan content, head over that way. Did you have a strong vision early in your school life of what you wanted to do? Yes, and I didn't end up doing it. In my early school years, my family will also vouch for this, that I was obsessed with wanting to paint portraits on a beach in Tenerife. That's what I wanted to do. very early on. That was the dream. And then that progressed to just wanting to paint. I was always really artsy at school, and then I studied art and textiles all the way through, you know, GCSE, sixth form, and then I went to college and did a year at Foundation Art and Design, and then it was there that I thought I need to do something. Actually, I really wanted to do illustration. I wanted to illustrate books. That was the dream at that point. So when I was 18, 19, that's really what I wanted to do, and I was obsessed with doing that. And I also wanted to make clothing. And then I sort of thought I want to do everything. So it was then actually until I went to university and we did our first historical project on a Victorian bodice with a focus for, I think it was theatre, that I then discovered that maybe historical is my thing, or I want it to be my thing, because I really enjoyed it. I did really well on the project. The more sort of imaginative, modern, more conceptual stuff I wasn't very good at, so I sort of naturally fell into historical stuff because I was better at it. I needed rules to follow, basically. So actually it wasn't until I was at uni that when I was 19 and 20 that I decided that I wanted to work in historical costume, and that'd be my life. Next question. What started your interest in embroidery and sewing? Well, actually, sort of following on from the last one, when I was younger, like really small, my mum all my family members used to buy me those embroidery kits, you know, the cross-stitch embroidery kits and things that you can get, where it's like butterflies and Disney characters and things like that. So from a really early age I loved doing those sorts of things. And then I think when I was doing GCSE textiles, no, AS level textiles, so first year of sixth form, I really looked into actually embroidery techniques. Well, I didn't really look into it. In my head I was like really looking into it and all this business and becoming an expert, and I knew nothing, and I still don't know half of it, but I just try and I enjoy it. But with that, my mum bought me the Art of Embroidery, History of Style and Technique. That book was the beginning really of historical embroidery, or at least looking at it and wanting to copy it or do in the style of. And then when I went to uni, I specialised in embroidery, because you could pick between print and dye and embroidery. You could pick between print and embroidery, so I chose embroidery. How did you first learn to sew? A mixture of things, really. How did you first learn to sew? I first learned to sew, I'd say, with my gran and my mum. My mum isn't the best sewer, but she had this old sewing machine that we used to cut up old shirts and just sew bits together and things like that. And like I say, always doing little kits and DIY kits and stuff, you know, like make your first pencil case and things like that. I was always into crafty stuff as a kid, and I remember we did in year 6, when I was still at primary school, we did this mural of ocean life, and I did this fish and I hand sewed it, and it was like the best thing ever that I'd made this fish and I'd covered it in sequins, and in my head it looked like a real fish. And the fact that I'd done that with fabric and sewing, that sort of was the first thing I think I actually sewed on my own, you know. It wasn't a kit or a something else. It was like the first sort of school project, I think. What has been your favourite project? Ooh, this is hard. Actually, I'm really enjoying these mittens. I know I've procrastinated for so long because I went back to work and everything sort of went a bit crazy again, and we went out of lockdown and then back into lockdown and then out and in, and other stuff got in the way, and I wasn't allowed to discuss a project that I was doing, so it was just safer to not film it at all. I'm gonna have to actually say the Black Prince's Jupon from A Stitch in Time. That will always be one of my favourite ones, and I'm sure everybody's sick of me talking about that project now, but that was my fave. That was excellent. It was, you know, obviously it wasn't just me, it was Nina and Harriet, and mainly Nina and Harriet, and I was just obsessing over the gorgeous gold work. But I also think one of my favourite projects, I did a shirt, a linen shirt, for the Royal Armouries, and that was my very first commission, and it was hand sewn with a bit of sneaky hidden machine sewn construction, so that it was like, you know, a bit more durable and quick to do. I remember I did it on Boxing Day. It was a really quick turnaround, and that was the sort of the first project, I think, where I thought, oh my god, I'm being paid to do this, it's got to be right. So it was sort of the first scary project, and the first project that was everything's going to be seen on this because it is just a shirt, and the simplicity of it meant it had to be perfect. It's like on Bake Off when they're doing say a cookie or something, or a Victoria sponge, and Paul Hollywood always says that thing of because it's so simple it has to be perfect. That's what it was like. So yeah, that was my favourite, I think, or, you know, for non-aesthetic reasons, I think that's my fave. And of course it was my first commission, so like first real world thing, and I was still a student at the time, and it was just amazing that anybody even asked me to do any work for them. What do you wish you could be better at? Crikey. Everything. Absolutely everything. I don't believe that you stop learning in this sort of industry. I think, like in any industry, there's always new information coming out, there's always new techniques, there's always different techniques. I'm doing this one very poorly right now, but practice makes perfect, and you know, there's always going to be things you don't enjoy doing, but you have to do it to finish the project. So yeah, everything, because it really frustrates me when I do something and it's not perfect, so, which happens more often than not. What course did you study at uni and why? Okie dokie. So I went to the University of Huddersfield and I studied costume with textiles. As I said, I don't know how many questions ago, I really wanted to be an illustrator. I really wanted to also make stuff at the same time, and making stuff as a hobby wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to study it as well. And Huddersfield Uni was actually the first open day that I went to, and I was just blown away by the facilities, the work that was happening. I remember there was this humongous costume from somebody who, I think it was Gone with the Wind, or it was that sort of, you know, it looked like one of those humongous dresses, gowns. Slap my wrist. So that was what I remember, and all the staff were really lovely and informative and encouraging. And the fact that we did construction, so costume construction, costume sort of embellishment. So like I say, in your first year you do a mixture of print and embroidery, and then you choose which one that you want to specialise in. So I chose obviously embroidery. So that was another plus. And I'd never done print before. I never sort of dyed anything, or even thought about dyeing anything apart from a denim jacket that I put one of those Dylon washing machine dyes in, which actually I still use sometimes now, on my own clothes. And so doing the whole mixture of things was the ultimate dream, you know, making costumes as well as doing embroidery, as well as doing text analysis from books, plays, films, all the rest of it, and then illustration, life drawing, all that. It was everything I liked, so I wanted to do that. So that's why I chose there, because while I was at college I fell in love with life drawing, and, you know, sort of, I loved portrait painting anyway, but that proper got me into portraits and all the rest of it, which I don't really do anymore, which is really sad. Last question, I think, or shall we do some more? What are your favourite sewing books? Oh, that's difficult. Obviously the Patterns of Fashion, Janet Arnold, School of Historical Dress books. That collection it's a must. It's a need. You need it in your life. Everybody needs it. Obviously the Tudor Taylor books. I'm just looking up at my bookshelf because it's like above here. I love, oh, a new one I'm loving, Stuart Style Monarchy Dress and the Scottish Male Elite by Maria Hayward. That is amazing. That's really cool. Yeah, just the info. I've not read it cover to cover. I've just read the odd bit that I've needed as of yet, but then, oh, that's a very good book. What else is good? In Fine Style, The Art of Tudor and Stuart Fashion by Anna Reynolds. That's amazing. I don't think that's available anymore though, which is sad. I sadly never went to the exhibition of that though. That was sort of just before I was getting into historical stuff properly. I think that came out as we were doing the Victorian project at uni, which then led me into doing everything else. 18th century dressmaking, American Duchess. That one's good. I actually referred to that one when I was doing my 18th century pocket. Trying to think of what I refer to a lot. Oh, the cut of men's clothes 1600 to 1900 and the cut of women's clothes 1600 to 1930. Nora Woe. Yeah, they're good. The references to accounts and things is bob on. Love that. Medieval Tailor's Assistant I've used a few times. Well, a few. For every medieval project. Sarah Thursfield. Awesome. And then obviously the 17th century book series, you know, 17th century men's dress patterns, and then the women's ones, book 1 and book 2. They're just fabulous. Great images in those ones as well. And then obviously the V&A series of books, the Fashion in Detail book collection, that is, you know, the detail in the analysis is just right. It's just the amount that you need, apart from obviously going and viewing these things yourself and taking measurements and such. They are proper, they're really good. I'm a fan of them. So without actually, you know, saying my entire collection of books, those are the highlights, I think. What project will you make next? Ooh, I'm not actually sure. I've got no commissions in the pipeline, obviously, because of COVID. Thank you very much. And I'm unsure as to whether to do a master's or not, a research master's, so I don't want to sort of commit to anything. But equally, I would love to make a 17th century women's bodice. That would be amazing. Because actually I'd like to reuse my university project. So I made a man and a woman's costume, 1600 to 1620 silhouette, and obviously the skirt for the women's costume is humongous. So, and it's just sat doing nothing, so I'd really like to repurpose that fabric, because there's a lovely ivory bodice in one of the is it in the Patterns of Fashion #5 book, or Women's Dress Patterns? I'd like to make one of them anyway, because I've recently, well, not recently, I've always been, you know, loving it, but the sort of Stuart fashion and everything I've really want to get more into. That was really great English. I want to explore more the 17th century clothing, bits of everything. I think it helps with working at the Portland collection at Welbeck, because that's mainly sort of 17th century. Well, it's not, but that's what I focus on. Favourite museums in Nottinghamshire? Ooh, okie dokie. So this is a good one. So I love, obviously, the Portland collection at Welbeck. That is top notch. Highly recommend. Really great. And I also like the National Civil War Museum at Newark. That's a real hidden gem, actually. You know, I feel like more people should know about that. I think they're my two faves, actually. I think they're the two. Because I've been to the National Civil War Museum quite a few times now, and it's always been great. Do you think you will ever write a book? I would love to write a book. I would love, 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 love it. I'd love to have the time, funds, energy, capabilities. But yeah, that would be the absolute dream, of bringing out my own book. Obviously digitising it myself, writing it myself, probably designing it myself, because I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to sort of layouts, compositions, editing, digitisation, things like that. Really love it, love software. So that is everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get to know me a bit better. If there's any more questions that you'd like me to answer, then please do pop them in the comments. I'll leave my Instagram down below as usual, as well as everything else, all the links to everything else, just in case you want to have a gander. Okie doke. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.